The conference room was dead silent except for the sound of Richard's voice echoing from my laptop speakers. That stupid bitch thinks she's so smart. Once I force her out, this company is ours, baby. Well, yours technically, but you know what I mean. I watched my business partner Julia's face crumble as her husband's recorded words filled the room. The 12 board members sat frozen, coffee growing cold, as months of deception unraveled in digital clarity. My name is Amelia Blackwood, and I'm the co-founder of Nexus Marketing Solutions. Julia Winters and I started this company in her garage 7 years ago with $5,000 and more ambition than sense. We'd built it into a $50 million firm with 40 employees and clients across the country. But today, I was about to destroy the man who'd tried to steal it all. Julia and I met at a Women in Business conference when we were both 28. She was brilliant at strategy. I had the creative vision. Within minutes of talking, we knew we could build something special together. We shook hands that night and never looked back. The early years were brutal. 18-hour days, ramen dinners, sleeping in the office. But we were in it together. When Julia's car broke down, I drove her to pitches. When my dad had a heart attack, she handled my clients without complaint. We weren't just business partners, we were sisters by choice. By year 3, we were profitable. By year 5, we had our own building. Companies were calling us, not the other way around. We'd made it, or so we thought. Then Richard entered the picture. Julia met him at a charity gala 2 years ago. Richard Winters was everything she thought she wanted, sophisticated, successful, came from old money. He owned a struggling consulting firm and talked a big game about synergy and partnerships. Julia was smitten. He really gets business, she gushed after their third date. He has so many ideas for Nexus. I was happy she'd found someone. Julia had sacrificed so much for our company, relationships, social life, even her health sometimes. She deserved love. But something about Richard set off my radar. Maybe it was how his eyes lingered on our office space, or how he casually asked about our revenue within minutes of meeting me. They married after 8 months in a wedding that cost more than our first-year revenue. Richard immediately started showing up at the office, offering advice. "You ladies need to think bigger," he'd say, feet up on our conference table. "This boutique approach is limiting. You should be acquiring competitors, leveraging debt, maximizing shareholder value." "We don't have shareholders," I reminded him. "Julia and I each own 50%. "Exactly the problem," he'd mutter. At first, Julia brushed off his intrusions as enthusiasm. But slowly, she started echoing his ideas. "We should expand faster. Take on investors. Go public eventually." Every conversation became a battle between the company we'd built and the empire Richard envisioned. Then the sabotage started. It was subtle at first. Meetings I wasn't told about. Clients getting different proposals than what I'd prepared. Vendors receiving conflicting instructions. I thought it was growing pains, miscommunication. Julia seemed as frustrated as I was. "Maybe we need better systems," she suggested during one particularly bad week when we'd lost $1 million client due to mixed messages. I agreed and implemented new protocols. But things got worse. Emails disappeared. Files got corrupted. Employees received contradictory directives that caused chaos. And Richard was always there, smoothing things over, looking helpful while Rome burned. The breaking point came 6 months ago. We were pitching to Global Tech, a contract that would double our revenue. I'd spent weeks perfecting the presentation, analyzing their needs, crafting a custom solution. The night before the pitch, my laptop was stolen from my car. "Don't worry," Richard said, appearing at the office at 6 a.m. I had Julia's assistant back everything up. "I've got you covered." He handed me a USB drive. I should have been suspicious about why he was there so early, why he happened to have a backup. But I was panicked and grateful. I loaded the presentation and rushed to the meeting. It was a disaster. The slides were wrong. Numbers inflated. Promises we couldn't keep. Strategies that made no sense. The Global Tech executives looked at me like I was insane. We didn't just lose the pitch. They told everyone in the industry about our unprofessional proposal. "I can't believe you blew that," Julia said later, Richard hovering behind her. "Maybe you're burned out. Taking on too much." That night, I made a decision. I bought a voice-activated recorder and started documenting everything. What I captured over the next 3 months made me sick. Richard in my office after hours, going through files. Phone calls where he impersonated me to vendors. Conversations with Julia where he planted seeds of doubt about my competence, my commitment, even my mental health. She's lost it, babe, he said in one recording. Amelia's paranoid, making mistakes. You need to ease her out before she tanks everything you've built. We built it together, Julia protested weakly. No, honey. You built it. She was just along for the ride. Trust me, I've seen this before. Partnerships dissolve. The smart one takes control. But the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks ago, Richard cornered me in the parking garage after everyone had left. He'd been drinking. I could smell whiskey on his breath. Let's cut the bullshit, he said, blocking my car door. You're going to sell your shares to Julia. I'll make it worth your while. 2 million cash, you walk away clean. The company's worth 10 times that. Not after I'm done with it. He leaned closer. See, I've been documenting your mistakes, your instability. The blown pitches, the paranoid accusations. Julia's ready to file for dissolution based on your incompetence. But that's messy. Lawyers, courts, reputation damage. So take the money and run. And if I don't, then I'll destroy you. Professionally, personally. I have connections you can't imagine. Every marketing firm in the country will know you're unstable, unreliable. You'll be unemployable. And Nexus? It'll be ashes. But hey, at least you'll own 50% of nothing. You're assuming Julia will go along with this. He laughed. Julia does what I tell her. She's too invested now, the house, the cars, the lifestyle. All paid for by Nexus profits. She needs this company, which means she needs me. So what's it going to be, Amelia? Easy way or hard way? I need time to think. You have 48 hours. Then things get ugly. I sat in my car for an hour after he left, shaking with rage. This man who'd contributed nothing, who'd married my best friend for her success, was trying to steal 7 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice. But he'd made one crucial mistake. He didn't know about the recorder in my pocket. I spent the next day gathering everything. Security footage of him in the office after hours. Email trails showing the sabotage. Financial records of his failing consulting firm and mounting debts. And hours of audio that painted a clear picture of corporate espionage and extortion. I called an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. We'd formed an advisory board the previous year. Successful entrepreneurs who guided our growth. Julia was confused but agreed to attend. What's this about? She asked as everyone filed in. Saving our company, I said. I started with the timeline. The sabotaged deals. The stolen laptop. The global tech disaster. Julia tried to interrupt, to explain, but I held up my hand. Just listen. Then I played the recordings. Richard's voice filled the room, laying out his schemes in his own words. His contempt for me. His manipulation of Julia. His plans to steal the company. And finally, his parking garage threats. Julia's face went from confusion to horror to rage. When Richard's voice said, Julia does what I tell her, she gripped the table so hard her knuckles went white. There's more, I said quietly. Richard's consulting firm is bankrupt. He owes creditors $3.2 million. He's been using Nexus funds to pay his debts, hiding it in expense reports. He didn't marry you for love, Julia. He married you for a bailout. The board sat in stunned silence. These were people who'd mentored us, believed in us, watched us grow from nothing to something. Now they were witnessing the attempted murder of our corporate baby. Motion to ban Richard Winters from all Nexus properties and operations, effective immediately, said Margaret Chin, our longest-serving board member. Seconded, said another. All in favor? Every hand raised, including Julia's. Tears streamed down her face as she voted to exile her husband from the company we'd built together. Motion to pursue criminal charges for corporate espionage, extortion, and embezzlement, Margaret continued. Another unanimous vote. Julia stood abruptly. I need a minute. Julia, wait, I started. No. She turned to me, mascara running. I brought him into our house. I let him poison everything we built. I chose him over you, over this. She gestured around the conference room where we'd celebrated so many victories. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I'm going to earn it. She left the room and came back 20 minutes later, composed but determined. I've called my lawyer. Divorce papers will be filed today. I've also frozen all joint accounts and credit cards. Richard's about to learn what happens when you mess with Nexus. The next hours were a whirlwind. Our corporate attorney contacted law enforcement. Our IT team secured all systems and changed every password. Security was briefed with Richard's photo. Do not allow entry under any circumstances. Richard arrived at 2 p.m., expecting to find me broken and ready to sell. Instead, he found security guards and police officers. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. Detective Morrison stepped forward. "Richard Winters, you're under arrest for extortion, corporate espionage, and embezzlement. You have the right to remain silent." "Julia," he screamed as they cuffed him. "Baby, tell them this is a mistake." Julia walked out of the building, divorce papers in hand. "The only mistake was marrying you. You can't do this. Half of this company is mine. California is a community property state." "Actually," I said, stepping beside Julia, "Nexus is held in a premarital trust. You get nothing." He lunged toward us, but the officers held him back. "You recorded me illegally. That's inadmissible." "Single-party consent state," Julia said coldly. "My business partner had every right to protect herself from a criminal. Goodbye, Richard." As they dragged him away, he screamed threats and profanities. The man who'd walked into our lives with such charm and confidence was reduced to a raving lunatic in handcuffs. The aftermath was intense. Auditors found Richard had stolen over $400,000 through false expenses and diverted contracts to shell companies. Several clients he'd driven away came back once they learned the truth. Global Tech even agreed to hear our pitch again, the real one this time. Julia threw herself into therapy and rebuilding. She insisted on paying back every cent Richard had stolen, even though legally she wasn't liable. She worked harder than ever, determined to prove she was still the partner I'd started this journey with. "I don't know how you can even look at me," she said one evening as we worked late like old times. "I almost let him destroy us." "You didn't let him do anything," I corrected. "He was a con artist. A good one. But we're better. How did you know to record everything?" "Honestly, my mom. She always said, 'In business, trust your gut and keep good records.' My gut said Richard was poison. The records proved it. Richard pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He got 3 years in federal prison and has to pay restitution. His consulting firm was liquidated to pay creditors. Last I heard, his family had disowned him. Turns out we weren't his first victims, just his most ambitious target. Julia's divorce was finalized in record time. Prenup or not, Richard got nothing. Hard to claim assets when you're a convicted felon who targeted your spouse. Julia kept the house, the cars, everything. She donated most of it to charity, wanting no reminders of him. Today, Nexus is stronger than ever. We've implemented safeguards, background checks for anyone close to leadership, security protocols, regular audits. But more importantly, Julia and I rebuilt our trust. We're not just business partners again. We're sisters who survived a war together. Sometimes employees ask about the extra security measures, the stringent protocols. Julia and I share a look and give the same answer. Insurance. Better safe than sorry. The recorder? I still carry it. Not because I expect betrayal, but as a reminder that sometimes the biggest threats come wrapped in charm and promises. Richard thought he could waltz into our house and steal what we'd built. He forgot that we built this house ourselves, brick by brick, and we knew every corner, every strength, every defense. My name is Amelia Blackwood. I co-founded a company with my best friend, and we almost lost it to a con man who thought women in business were easy marks. When he threatened to destroy me unless I signed over my shares, I played him the recordings of his own crimes. Even his wife, my partner, voted to throw him out. He's in federal prison now. We're on the Fortune 5,000 list. Turns out the recorder is mightier than the con. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.